Oh my goodness, I can't believe I have left it so long to bring you this voice review today. This is possibly one of the most influential motivational speakers that ever walked the planet, and he's been going at it for some years, like a long time, and he's kind of, been around a long time, so he's much older now. So I found something around the middle of his career worth showing you, which is a really good example of this public speaker. His name is Les Brown.
As I was in the radio station, the guy said, "You're going to make a commercial?" I said, "Yes." He said, "It better be a good one because that money can't go pretty far here."
So let's take a little listen to him in action.
You want to make your dream come true, you got to stay focused. Some people rather get even than get ahead. Stay focused on where you want to go. I just kept on doing what I was supposed to do. And so I was driving to the radio station. My opponent had over $20,000. I had less than $800.
First of all, he's got a powerful voice. He really can project his voice, and he can maintain it in a healthy way as well. He's still, like I said, he's still performing, he's still motivating people to this day, and he's used his voice to such effect. It's like, as a public speaker, he sounds like a preacher, and I think, he might even have a religious background, but I don't want to go too deeply into his history. I want to talk about the voice itself because that's what's important. But it's not just about his voice with Les Brown, because he uses it. It's like he's technically brilliant as well. It's not just he's born fortunate with an instrument that just so happens to be brilliant at speaking. He's adapted it. He's made it his own. He can tell a story. He believes in the power of the pause, and he uses rhetorical devices really well. He structures things. Like, if of all the speakers on this channel that I'd say you should really take a look at, just for sheer enjoyment of someone with a great voice who's using it at the top level, Les Brown would be the one. Now, he's got quite big cheeks, and like a beaver, they store things in his cheeks. You can see that in his structure. They're like this, and he's a little bit kind of goofy with it, and so there's that you can hear this sound, but which is let's have a look.
I was in the radio station. The guy said, "You're going to make a commercial?" I said, "Yes." He said,
Yes. So he's got a little bit of a kind of slight lisp, where just because of the way he's shaped, but it never gets in the way. So it's not an issue. It's just the way he sounds, and that's part of his genetics. That's just what he is. He's got kind of. He's got a beard, so it's hard to tell, but I think he's got a very big mouth cavity here, and I guess that gives him a lot of space to resonate. And so his voice being so big, he looks like a big guy. I'm not entirely sure how tall he is, but when he's on stage, he's got such a big persona, and he really uses his chest voice, and he really uses and opens his mouth, and he just allows sound to just vibrate, boom. And that's part of the reason why he's probably so effective, is because he doesn't withhold his he doesn't restrict himself, and he really lets things flow. So we do some exercises on this channel where we yawn, which kind of manipulates and kind of like elasticates some of the tubes, if you like, that carry sound resonance into our mouth and our nasal cavities and out. And so having those be kind of exercised, it creates a little bit more space for resonance and a bit more fluidity and a bit more elasticity. But this is somebody who probably did it for many years, and it's clearly, he probably does a warm-up, and he probably, I'm guessing here, because he's so articulate and he's so resonant. I'm getting a little bit lost for words, funny enough, because he's just the ideal voice. And like I said, despite the fact that he's got a bit of a lisp and he's got a bit of a, which seems like big cheeks and a large mouth, nothing gets in the way of him sharing his message and telling his story. And I want to go into that with Les Brown. I think because he's such he's a big man, he's got an authoritative voice, and he's got a fairly deep voice, not really beefy, but it's big because he's resonant, because he's relaxed. And what's most important and what's helping him with that is he's so focused on his audience. He's so in tune with communicating his message to the people he's speaking to that he does not for 1 second consider or self-criticize himself. And so this just frees his body up to be more relaxed, and it frees his mind up to focus outwards and not inwards. And this is the biggest takeaway, I think, from Les Brown, and what we can all learn from is that once you start becoming self-aware, you start restricting and judging yourself, and you hold yourself back. And that can create tensions in your body and the mind, which hinder the message you're trying to share, as well as the way in which you're trying to share that message. And with Les Brown, he barely pauses without, unless it's for effect, for a second. He knows what he's going to say, even though he probably doesn't have it rehearsed. He's just so intent on focused outwards. He doesn't think about himself. He thinks only on communicating something to his audience. And if you've watched any of my videos before on overcoming fear of public speaking, then I go into some of this where we use what's called actions, and actors use this, some actors, which is developed from, taken partly from a system created by Konstantin Stanislavski, which is a Russian acting practitioner or director from over 100 years ago. Anyway, it's still commonly used methods and practices today in the theatre and film industry. So kind of this idea of affecting your audience and taking action and using a verb to put behind your words. So rather than saying, I've got to remember these lines, I've got to remember this story, I've got to tell this thing. What happens? A fire engine comes and it goes over there. He's not in his head, he's not thinking. He's only thinking, how am I going to affect the audience? And he says everything with full intent to affect them with those words. And the words will just come if you know the story. Now, it takes a lot of bravery at first to let go of the details of that. And for those of us that are kind of analytically minded and really like the details and quite mathematical maybe about things and try to be precise and perfect things, it's going to be difficult to do. But if you're someone who's like, well, I think I know what I'm going to talk about, and then you warm up your voice, and if you just focus on your audience, the voice will come. And he's the best example of someone who does that well. And that's why he's a motivational speaker. He gets people to feel good about themselves. He gets people to take action simply because he moves people, because he makes a choice about how he wants the people to feel, and he does his best with the stories he's telling to create that environment for them so they feel that way. He touches people's emotions because he doesn't restrict himself. He's open, clean vessel who connects with people. And this is the thing about Les Brown. He connects with his audience. I want you to go away and check this guy out. I'm not really going to talk too much actually about his voice. I've gone on about his kind of the way he uses his voice rather than the voice itself. But like I said, that he might even have vocal issue. If he was someone that cared about that, it might have held him back, but he doesn't. He just goes forward, plows forward. So check him out. He's really worth watching. Les Brown. All right. I hope that's been useful. I just wanted to really introduce him to this channel because I might hopefully use some of his work again in the future. And I'm certainly going to be going through his work for myself to look at some of the stories and the motivational speeches he's brought, because I'd like to do some more of that myself. So thank you for watching. My name's Darren McStay. That was a review on Les Brown. This is Improve Your Voice, and until the next time, look after your voice. I have so many tales to tell, and up till